It's been said that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. It turns out that meaningful differences among men and women can be found in the financial and retirement arenas as well. Discover how men and women approach different financial areas by exploring our Retirement Planning Among the Sexes resource. Discuss it with your financial professional to help start a meaningful discussion about your retirement preparedness.
Well, hello, family, friends, and learners. It is your financial professional, Monica C. Harris, and let's take a look at that white paper. That white paper titled Retirement Planning Among the Sexes, a Sandwich Generation Study Spinoff. This one should be really good. In exploring differences among the sandwich generations, we spotted several areas where men and women were answering questions in notably different ways. This is about to get good. This is a great conversation starter too, guys, at your holiday gathering with the men versus the women when you're trying to launch that topic on family funding. With North Americans' empowered research on women and retirement still fresh, these findings from the Sandwich Generation study may not stand out as especially groundbreaking, but provide additional important context on some of the subtle differences between women and men. If you haven't heard of Empowered but are interested in learning more about women and retirement, you can visit NorthAmericanCompany.com/empowered. How men and women see themselves. Their retirement planning grades. Combined, 52% of men gave themselves an A or a B when it comes to their current status, while only 34% of women were that confident. On the low end of the scale, just 27% of men gave themselves a D or an F. For women, those grades accounted for 40% of respondents. All right, guys, if I was doing a study on the men and women that I talk to on a regular basis, that data would absolutely be flipped. But let's just go with the content provided here. Put another way, men were twice as likely to give themselves an A or a B than a D or an F, while women were more likely to give themselves an unsatisfactory grade than an A or a B. I can't even believe I'm presenting this content. And it's not because I'm a woman. I honestly can say that my women whom I converse with on these topics daily are more in alignment with the majority in confidence about retirement dollars, even consciousness. Contentedness with savings rate. Women were more likely than men to say that they wished they were saving more. They were also almost twice as likely to say they weren't sure how much they should be saving. A higher percentage of men reported they thought they were saving the right amount as women. Listen, 19% of women weren't even conscious of it. 64% of women wish they were saving more versus 56%. Okay, if they say so, and I am saving the right amount. Well, yeah, I can see that when I am saving the right amount being kind of accurate. We're not going to go into the to the obvious reasons for my assumptions there. Confidence, preparedness, and meeting their retirement goals. Again, men's relative confidence carried through to how sure they were that they'll meet their retirement savings goals. About 67% of men reported being very confident or somewhat confident in being able to meet their savings goals. For women, that number was only 46%. Oh my gosh, how much they've saved. I'm sorry, this is really choking me up. One possible explanation for the higher confidence for men was borne out in the responses to another question. And that was, how much have they saved? We asked respondents how much they'd saved for retirement, and while 20% of men reported zero savings, our research found that 32% of women said they hadn't saved a penny. Alrighty, we asked respondents to share which phrase best describe their investment mindset from very risk averse to highly risky. This is really interesting. While the men and women providing answers were distributed pretty similarly, twice as many women said they didn't know or weren't sure of their risk tolerance. That said, by percentage, 41% of men said they were either highly or moderately risky, with half the percentage of women giving the same answers. Nearly half of women reported being moderately or very risk averse. Take a look at that bar there. I am going to hold all opinions in this study. I have so many. How men and women's cross-generational relationships differ. Our study showed that men tend to give retirement advice to their children in slightly greater numbers than women. What? At the same time, men were far more likely to have received retirement advice from a parent. Figures exclude those who indicated child-parent relationship questions didn't apply to them. Okay, so have you ever given your children advice about planning for their retirement? 58% of men, 52% of women. That's pretty good. Have you ever received advice about planning for retirement from your parents? Only 38% of women, said that they have. 53% of men. Well, I am happy to say that the women in my house from the age 16 all the way up have all had the conversation together. How involved they are in their parents' retirement planning, guys. You know, this is a sweet spot for me. Combined, 83% of women reported that they were not very involved or not involved at all in their parents' retirement planning. Oh, wow. Only 4% of women said they were involved, while a comfortable majority of men, 63%, were similarly out of the loop. More than 3 times as many men than women indicated they were very involved with their parents' planning. That's really interesting, and I'd say for this study, kudos to the men for that one. Optimism for retirement compared to their parents and their kids. Comparing themselves to the generation that came before them, men were more likely than women to think they'd be better off. So we're 68% of men versus 51% of women. And then when it comes to their optimism for the next generation, men and women were more in alignment. About 82% for men and 73% for women believe that they agreed, somewhat or strongly agreed, with the statement that their kids will be better off in retirement than they were. I mean, after answering these questions, we all should be gearing up to start having these conversations with our children. Expectations to receive and leave an inheritance. Another really sweet spot for me. And for those of you who tune in on a regular basis, I am sure that this has become a sweet spot for you too. The overriding theme, men carrying more financial confidence than women, continues on this final set of questions. Here, 35% of men compared to 28% of women expect to receive an inheritance from their parents. And 55% of men compared to 36% of women plan to leave an inheritance to their kids or grandkids. Again, all I can say is in terms of this study, kudos to you men. So this is a great question. What might it mean for your family and financial plan? I really hope this is going to help you guys start the conversation. You can really have a meaningful men versus women contest at the next family gathering. Hey, let's close this out and let's have a quick Q&A live.